Good morning. It's June 12th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. Let's begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. We start with Japan's nuclear wastewater discharge test, which begin today. Despite opposition from local fishermen, the Tokyo Electric Power Company will test a system used for releasing Fukushima wastewater by flushing clean water and seawater in an underwater tunnel. Ukraine says it has retaken villages in the Donetsk region as a part of its counterattack, but Russian forces claim they repelled multiple attacks. K-pop boy group Stray Kids has made it to #1 on Billboard's main albums chart for the third time. Their third studio album, 5 Star, makes the group the second K-pop act to hit #1 on the chart after BTS. Starting today, Japan will carry out a 2-week test operation to discharge the Fukushima wastewater. Now, the plan is facing fierce opposition from local fishermen, as the trial could indicate that the release is imminent. Our Shin Se-byuk reports.
Starting Monday, Japan is carrying out a 2-week test run on the process of discharging nuclear contaminated water from the wrecked Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. This is according to Japan's local media, Fukushima TV, on Sunday, citing the plant's operator, the Tokyo Electric Power Company. During the test run, it will ensure the safety of the discharging process. Although there won't be any actual release, the start of the trial operations means a release could become imminent. Last week, Japan sent some 6,000 tons of seawater into a 1-kilometer-long underwater tunnel built in the nuclear power plant. This approach aims to mix the water, which has been decontaminated of all radioactive substances except tritium that's inseparable from water, with seawater and release it. Japan plans to have its water release system ready by the end of this month. A final report from the International Atomic Energy Agency on its inspection is expected in late June. Once everything is completed, Japan plans to release more than 1 million tons of contaminated water currently stored at the stricken power plant. Meanwhile, Japanese authorities are facing fierce opposition from local fishermen. Last Saturday, Japan's industry minister Yasutoshi Nishimura met with local fisheries representatives to seek their understanding for the plant release. Their representatives expressed grave concerns over the plan, saying the move is fueling anxiety about the future of fishing operations. To that, Nishimura said the government is to provide increased support to expand the consumption of fisheries products and that it will continue working to develop the nation's fisheries industries. Japan plans to release the contaminated water into the sea this summer, while pledging it would not dispose of the contaminated water without consent from concerned parties. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Now, over in Ukraine, the country has claimed its first victory since its counteroffensives began. But Russia insists of successfully repelling the Ukrainian attacks. Our Lee Seung-ja has more.
Ukraine says it has taken control of 3 frontline villages in the western Donetsk region, marking its first major victories since its counteroffensives began a week ago. Footage on social media showed Ukrainian troops celebrating the villages they were able to take back. According to a Ukrainian military blogger, during a span of a week, Ukraine was able to take back around 95 square kilometers of territory. However, Ukrainian forces still have a long way to go before they reach Russia's main fortified defensive lines, including the southwestern part of Zaporozhye. Despite the claims of major victories in the 3 villages, Russia has yet to confirm the losses, instead announcing it had successfully repelled a number of Ukrainian assaults. Russia's defense ministry said Sunday that Russian forces had shot down a Ukrainian Su-25 fighter jet in the Kherson region, while adding that it had also repelled 3 attacks from Ukrainian forces in the Zaporozhye region. The ministry added that Ukraine attempted to attack one of its Navy ships in the Black Sea using 6 drones, but ultimately failed. Russia's state-run TASS news agency also reported that Russian forces destroyed Ukrainian howitzers and multiple rocket launchers. The news outlet also reported on a number of other successful military operations conducted by Russian forces against Ukraine to repel the counteroffensives. While it's still too early to say which side has the upper edge, According to the British Ministry of Defence's Defense Intelligence Department, Ukraine has carried out important operations in several key areas in the southeastern regions. 이승재, Arirang News.
President Yoon spent much of May focused on diplomacy, from multilateral summits to hosting leaders at his office. He switched the focus to domestic policies last week that value balanced regional growth. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
South Korea has one of the fastest decreasing populations in the world, with small rural towns facing the risk of disappearing. And with the government and opposition lawmakers making clear the importance of promoting balanced regional growth, President Yoon has highlighted an underlying vision of his that has been no secret since his election.
저는 평소 지역 균형 발전 전략으로 공정한 접근성, 또 재정 권한 강화, 그리고 지역의 특화된 산업을 지역 스스로 선택해서 결정하는 이 세 가지가 균형 발전의 기본이라고 생각을 해왔습니다.
And this past week, the president put his words into action. On Monday, he went to the western port city, Incheon, where the new overseas Korean agency opened up.
전 세계에서 민간 경제 외교 사절로 활약 중인 재외동포의 네트워크 허브가 될 재외동포청은 인천이 글로벌 도시로 성장하는 데 큰 동력이 될 것입니다.
On Wednesday, he went to Cheongju City for the groundbreaking ceremony of a high-speed railroad.
5성의 철도 산업 클러스터를 조성하고 기존 생명과학단지를 K바이오 스퀘어로 탈바꿈하여 충북을 국가 첨단 산업의 중심으로 육성할 것입니다.
On Friday, he went to Gangwon-do province, which has recently become a special self-governing province. This was one of the most notable domestic achievements that has support across the political divide. While the effects are not going to be immediate, experts say this is a forward-thinking move.
There are differences in each region, and the national government has limits in terms of managing them. Now, if local governments can make decisions for themselves, they will be able to consider different aspects themselves and make more reasonable decisions. But for the results to show, it'll take some time.
Next in line for an upgrade is Jeollabuk-do province, which in January will also become a self-governing province. The president shifted focus this week after spending the month of May engaged in diplomatic events which earned him favorable approval ratings from his foreign policy achievements. So, why a sudden turn to domestic politics? Pundits are pointing to the general elections next April.
He needs to boost his approval rating for the general elections next year, and in that case, he needs to win the hearts of the voters in different regions. However, if he does that too close to the election, he will get criticized by the opposition, and there are legal limits, so he is working on it now.
Experts also say that while much of these policies have been supported by both parties, it is likely that the general public will remember the president's role. And there's one related key achievement that could yet come as we wait to see if Busan wins the bid to host the 2030 World Expo. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
North Korea had set a 12-day window for the launch of its satellite-carrying space rocket. With one failed attempt at putting the satellite into orbit on May 31st, but there was no second try as the window expired on Sunday. What is the regime up to? We're joined by Lieutenant General retired Chun In-bum for more. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, the notice period was between the start of May 31st and the start of June 11th. Now, that's over. Does that mean no new launch in the near future?
Not at all. It just means that the North Koreans have been unsuccessful in finding and fixing the problem that they confronted during the last launch. I'm sure that the North Koreans will try to launch as soon as possible once these problems are rectified, and that other conditions such as weather and political situations meet their goals.
Right, the next launch could come without warning or notice, like the North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong said a couple of weeks ago. Now, South Korea's top office said Seoul is not letting its guard down, and the Japanese government has extended an order to destroy any North Korean ballistic missile or rocket that threatens its territory. Now, why is that? Why are the two countries on such high alert?
So the North Koreans have made a bad situation worse by declaring that they will not be notifying the international community of a launch, which means that it can happen anytime, and therefore we have to be on the alert all the time. And if the launch occurs, as it probably will, without any kind of notice, it could lead into another type of accident that not even the North Koreans have intended and could cause fatalities within the region. So in order to prevent this, of course, neighboring countries like South Korea and Japan are on high alert. And in the case of a debris or even the rocket itself landing in their population's area, they're prepared to shoot it down.
Right, so just because the notice period is over doesn't mean that they've let go of their nuclear or spy satellite ambitions.
Yes.
Then, according to 38 North over the weekend, satellite imagery shows movement that could mean preparation for a possible engine test of a satellite. Tell us about that movement. Could that be for the second spy satellite launch?
Yes, it could be for another preparation for another launch, because we now estimate that the failure of the first launch was because of its engines. So this activity is probably in relation to finding and fixing that problem. The real problem, though, is that whatever they're testing with their engines, it can be used for military purposes. That's why the whole notion of North Korea launching a so-called peaceful satellite is a problem for us.
Right, because those satellites could be a threat to the international community. That's why we are all staying on high alert. Now, there are reports that China is also working to find and retrieve the debris of the fallen North Korean rocket. Why is China doing that? I mean, isn't it illegal to transfer such debris to North Korea?
Well, for one thing, the debris has landed in international waters. So any country with the intent and capability to retrieve the debris is within their legal bounds. Now, to your specific question, if the Chinese were going to return the technology or the retrieved debris to North Korea, that would be certainly not legal. And morally, it would be against the stability of the region. So I hope that they will not be doing this. But right now, North Korea has no legal rights to the debris, even to the debris in international waters, because they're not actively trying to retrieve it themselves.
Right, the rocket itself belongs to North Korea, but the debris in the West belongs to nobody for now, right?
Yes.
Then, before we let you go, why is China seeking to retrieve the debris? Is it because it will transfer that to the North? What's their purpose?
They're probably as curious as we are as to the extent of the technology of the North Koreans. And if anybody is able to find the payload, the actual satellite, that would be great. I mean, we would be able to know the extent of North Korea's capabilities in that field. But whatever we find, and we will find it, it will help us to understand North Korea.
Right. Literally, all eyes are on that debris in the West Sea. Thank you always for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you again.
South Korea's U20 football team took fourth place at FIFA U20 World Cup in Argentina after losing to Israel 3-1 in the early hours of Monday morning local time. South Korean captain Lee Seung-won scored a 24th-minute penalty to level the game after Israel had taken the lead after 19 minutes. Israel fired home 2 late second-half goals to finish the tournament in the 3rd place. The South Korean side will return home on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Uruguay became champions by beating Italy by a 0-0 in the final. K-pop boyband Stray Kids has topped U.S. Billboard's main albums chart for the 3rd time with their 3rd full-length album, 5 Star. According to Billboard on Sunday, Stray Kids' new album went straight to the top of the Billboard 200 chart for this week with 249,500 equivalent album units earned in the U.S. Now, this makes them the only Korean act other than BTS to claim the top spot on the Billboard 200 chart more than 2 times. They previously reached #1 in March last year with the EP Ordinary and in October with the EP Maxident. Tomorrow, June 13th, marks the 10-year anniversary of much-beloved K-pop superstars BTS. From their debut as a 7-member group to their unique take on solo albums, our Song Yujin looks back at the past decade.
Everybody, 단체! 둘, 셋, 팍! 다! 안녕하세요, 방탄소년단입니다. Yeah! 같이 인사 좀 드려요.
This appearance on Arirang TV was just 3 months after their debut, but fast forward almost a decade. And BTS has blossomed into a 5-time Grammy nominee, Times Entertainer of the Year, music chart toppers, and the most followed music group on Instagram. But BTS's success didn't happen overnight. When the boys released their debut track, No More Dream, in 2013, they weren't signed with one of the big 3 record companies in Korea, known for producing hit K-pop groups since the 90s. Their rebellious bad boy looks and aggressive hip-hop music presented a stark contrast to the clean-cut, romance-singing boy groups K-pop fans were accustomed to. It was actually social media that first rose the boys to stardom.
And even before their debut, they were talking with their fans. They always showed insight into who they are. They always had their nowadays we see Jungkook going on a live stream with 10 million people, and back then they were doing it for just a few people on YouTube. But it's always been that way. And
This not only expanded BTS's reach, but also fostered a deep connection with their fans, the ARMY. But success wouldn't have lasted long without good music. Unlike most K-pop songs written by renowned composers, BTS members actively contributed as songwriters and producers.
But you become a voice of a generation because you really put yourself out there, you put music out there that is very both personal and relatable. That's what makes a great pop song or a great, popular hit. So every person can listen to it and feel, oh, I feel that way. And
the song Love Myself really empowered me. I had a difficult time at work back then, and the song gave me a lot of comfort.
Equally important is the fact that all 7 members have remained together until now.
Unlike many K-pop groups that pursue unique projects, BTS has always worked together other than releasing solo work. This unity and strength are what define BTS.
Their songs and dances are really cool, and it's just great to see the strong bond between the members.
All this paved the way for other K-pop acts to shine on the global stage.
BTS has brought K-pop into the mainstream. K-pop used to be a niche music loved by enthusiasts, but it's now become a universal genre enjoyed worldwide like Latin or British pop.
No one could have predicted the immense scale of BTS's success 10 years ago. Although they're currently taking time off as a group, who knows what extraordinary accomplishments they'll achieve in the next 10 years. 송유진, 아리랑 뉴스.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in the Red Sea, where search teams are looking for 3 missing British tourists. Now, the tourists disappeared after the boat they were on suddenly caught fire on Sunday local time off the coastal city of Marsa Alam. Now, the boat was carrying 15 British tourists, 12 crew members and 2 guides. All passengers except the missing 3 have been rescued. The boat was on a 7-day dive cruise and was due to return to port on the day of the fire. According to a spokesperson for the boat's operator, the fire started while the boat was at a popular diving spot. Early investigations indicate that an electrical fault in the boat's engine room may have caused the fire. Now in Colombia, 4 children were found alive on Friday evening after surviving in the Amazon rainforest for 40 days. The children aged between 11 months and 13 years were stranded in the jungle after a private Cessna plane they were on crashed. A pilot and co-pilot died immediately, and the children's mother reportedly died 4 days later. The children were able to survive by eating cassava flour and fruit seeds. Rescue teams said that the children survived for so long due to their indigenous roots, which made them immune to certain diseases. They also knew how to find food and water. The search operation included over 100 Colombian Special Forces troops and more than 70 indigenous scouts. Now, moving over to sports, Novak Djokovic has broken the world record for the most Grand Slam titles ever won. The achievement comes after the 36-year-old Serbian won his 3rd French Open final on Sunday in Paris. Djokovic beat Norwegian Casper Ruud in straight sets. The men's world number 1 previously shared the title of most Grand Slams won with Rafael Nadal. Meanwhile, in the women's event, Iga Swiatek also claimed her 3rd French Open win on Saturday for her 4th Grand Slam win. The world number 1 seeded Polish player beat unseeded Czech Karolina Muchova in a 3rd set comeback after winning her 1st set and losing her 2nd. And finally, Ferrari claimed victory over the weekend at the 100th anniversary of the Le Mans 24 Hours race. It was a triumphant return to the endurance race for Ferrari, who hadn't competed at Le Mans since 1973. But the win at the Circuit de la Sarthe didn't come easy, as Ferrari had to battle against a competitive Toyota, which was aiming to clinch its 6th straight Le Mans title. Ferrari also had to overcome bad weather and a series of technical issues. But their 499P Le Mans hypercar, driven separately by 3 drivers in shifts, crossed the finish line with a lead of 1 minute 21 seconds ahead of 2nd place Toyota.
Good morning. We are getting more frequent passing rain since we moved into June. There were reports of a devastating lightning strike incident over the weekend. If you see lightning and hear the rumble of thunder, be sure to get inside right away. The new week kicks off with a chance of more passing rain with up to 50 millimeters of rain in the forecast. But precipitation could vary depending on the region. But until it starts to rain, skies will remain clear with very strong UV rays in most parts of the country. Ozone levels will be high in most regions except for Gangwon-do and Jeju. Morning temperatures are similar to yesterday, but the west coast and south coast were covered with thick fog. The afternoon highs will be similar to slightly lower than Sunday, with Seoul topping out at 27 degrees. Air quality will be decent nationwide all day today. More chances of rain are in the forecast early this week, while the temperature heat goes up as the week goes on. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That is all we have for this Monday morning. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
you.